So supposedly this website called rectifygaming.com claims to have reliable sources that are telling them the potential price for the Scorpio, its final name, and even the colors that the system will launch with. So let's talk about this. So I originally found this information from Crap Gamer Reviews. He's a pretty cool YouTuber. I'll leave a link down in the description below to his YouTube channel. You should go check him out. Pretty cool guy. So credit goes to him for finding all this information. And I'll also leave a link down in the description where all this information originally came from. And before I begin talking about all this, just to let you know, none of this is obviously confirmed. None of this is directly from Microsoft themselves. So all of this should be heavily taken with a grain of salt. There is still a potential for this information to be correct as well, which is why I am discussing it with you guys and giving you my opinions and thoughts on it, just in case it is actually true. So this is what Rectifying Gaming has to say about the Xbox Scorpio, and I quote them. "Our source has been quiet since we did the original news back in April. As E3 approaches, the likelihood of leaks to happen increased dramatically," which is obviously true. "Today we can share with you, our readers, some information regarding Project Scorpio within Microsoft. There have been multiple marketing plans suggesting Xbox One X is the name Xbox has chosen for Scorpio. Furthermore, same marketing plans suggest Microsoft has set the price for Xbox One X at $449.99, coming in matte black and with more color options available." So let's start with the potential name, Xbox One X. So when I saw that, I thought it was pretty clever because obviously it's an acronym for Xbox. We have the X and then the box for the B and then the 1 for the O and then the letter X for X, which spells out Xbox. Which, like I said, that's very clever. I think that would be a pretty cool marketing name for Microsoft to go with. Do I think it's true? I don't really see Microsoft going with that type of name. It is clever though, but I just don't see that being the final name for it. And then Rectify Gaming goes on to state that there are actually 3 names up for debate with Microsoft on the name for the Scorpio. One being Xbox One X, one being Xbox One Pro, and the third they didn't quite get yet from the source, but there are 3 names up for debate. Xbox One Pro, not gonna happen. Sorry, there's no way Microsoft would pick Xbox One Pro and contradict themselves with their competition, the PlayStation 4 Pro. It would never happen. There's no way Microsoft would be that stupid to cause that big of a contradiction. Xbox One X sounds much more realistic than Xbox One Pro. To be honest, I'm expecting a simple name, something like Xbox Infinity maybe, something like that. But the gaming industry is so unpredictable when it comes to names of hardware. I have no clue what's going to be called, but if it is in fact Xbox One X, like I said, that's a very clever name. I like it. I think it's a cool marketing strategy for Xbox to go with, since it does spell out Xbox. I think it'd be cool to see what they did with that when it came to the logo and the marketing for it. So let's move on to the potential price for the Xbox Scorpio. Rectify Gaming is saying, like I said before, $449.99 US dollars. If Microsoft is able to sell this thing at launch for $449.99, this thing is gonna sell off the shelves like as fast as the Switch is. If they are able to hit that, that is, in my opinion, that is a sweet spot for this console. I was expecting 500. I still am expecting 500 because of the hardware inside this machine. It's incredible for a console to finally have these kind of specs. And yes, they aren't, top of the line specs right now, but for a console, these specs are incredible. So I still expect 500, but if they are able somehow to get $449 at the launch price point, man, you guys, this console will sell. It will sell. That is a very attractive price. If they announce $449 at E3, the crowd's gonna go insane because everyone, from what I'm reading online, is expecting $500 to $600 right now. And that's realistic, to be honest. With these specs, that's realistic. But $449, anything under $500, man, that is gonna be a huge plus for Microsoft. when it comes to launching the Scorpio. So I really do hope they can hit the 449 mark. That would be the sweet spot in my opinion. I don't think it's going to go any lower than that. I think that'll be the lowest it could possibly go. It does seem a little odd though for it to be a halfway point between $100. I don't think we've ever seen that on a launch before, maybe on Nintendo consoles, but usually Microsoft and Sony go for the double zeros, 500 or 400, 300. I don't think we've ever seen a $50 mark on a launched console before. I might be wrong, but it does seem a little odd. But if that is the launch price, the Scorpio will be successful. If that's the price, in my opinion, I think it'll be way successful if that is the price. And now let's move on to the last thing, the color matte black that Rectify Gaming is claiming their sources telling them will be one of the launch colors for the Scorpio. Let's be honest guys, that's not a very huge claim. It seems pretty realistic. Xbox, and there's usually always a black form of some sort when it comes to their consoles, besides recently with the Xbox One S, which is pure white. You know, it's not that far-fetched. I could see that happening. And what I have up here for you to see right now is actually concept renders of what the Scorpio potentially could look like. Because right here, this is the dev kit for the Scorpio. This is what developers are using right now to create games with. This is what the Scorpio dev kit looks like. And usually, with dev kits, the final design looks very similar to the dev kits. So what this person did, whoever rendered these images, used the dev kit to base it off of and pretty much clean it up, which is what companies like Microsoft and PlayStation do. They use the dev kit, they send it out, and then with the final design, they clean it up and make it consumer friendly, and then put it out on the market. So these, in my opinion, are pretty realistic to what we should expect the Scorpio to look like. Colors may be way off, but the design itself seems pretty realistic, and I hope it does actually look something similar to these images. And there's one more thing I wanted to point out to you guys from this website. Rectify Gaming is saying their source is telling them that games like Battlefront 2 are going to be 4K native resolution on the Scorpio. And that's interesting because games like Battlefront or Battlefield need to be 60 frames per second. Those types of first-person shooters have to be 60 frames per second, or else they're not really enjoyable, because those have to be pretty much precise when it comes to online gameplay and whatnot. You know, when you're aiming down your sights, it just needs to be fluent 60 frames or close to 60 frames. So if they're saying that Battlefront 2 is going to be running 4K native, it's going to be running 60 frames then, because there's no way Microsoft will, and this is a big question I've had for a while and no one's really gone over it. I don't think Microsoft is going to put resolution before frames per second. And what I mean is, say they have a game running at 1080p, right? And it's at 60 frames per second when it's running in 1080p. I don't see Microsoft saying, you know, the Scorpio can run it at 4K, but when it's in 4K, it can only run 30 frames per second. So let's just stick with 4K, and who cares about 30 frames per second? I don't see that happening. I really hope they focus on frames per second first before they focus on resolution. Priority for FPS, then resolution, because I am pretty sure the majority of gamers appreciate FPS more than resolution. So with Battlefront, if it's gonna run lower than 60 frames per second at 4K, I really hope Microsoft, you know, would compromise and maybe run it at 1440p so it can hit 60 frames per second instead of running it at 4K and making it run at 30 frames per second. That's a big question I've had for the Scorpio ever since I've heard about it. So I really hope Microsoft prioritizes FPS above resolution. That's huge in my opinion. That is the main selling point for me. If it's going to focus more on resolution than FPS, I'm not interested. If it's going to prioritize, like I said, FPS over resolution, I'm all for it. So hopefully Microsoft, you are focusing on FPS more than resolution, because they are marketing this as 4K consoles, so they're trying to put everything in 4K, but I really hope that they're putting FPS above resolution first. That's all I'm saying. So that's basically all Rectify Gaming has to say about the Scorpio, and like I said in the beginning of this video, take all of this information with a huge grain of salt, because we have no clue if this place is even reliable. But they do claim to have reliable sources, but I think everyone does who tries to put out leaks. So yeah, just take this stuff with a grain of salt, guys. And let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I'm interested to see your guys' opinions on all these leaks, or all these potential leaks, and let me know your thoughts on the Scorpio itself. Before you go, make sure to give me a thumbs up if you liked this video. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't. It helps me out a lot. And if you want more content just like this, remember to subscribe here at Rajant Productions for all things gaming. And with that, I will catch you in the next video.